In the Wrap's coverage of Patty Jenkins walking out of Wonder Woman 3 because the Warner executives rejected her treatment. They maintained that she not only lambasted those executives, she made it clear that if they didn't want to use her story, she was going to move on to her next movie. But after what she did since, there might not be a next movie. This video is sponsored by Kamikoto. In our previous video, we covered the fear-mongering that was prevalent in the initial cycle of fake news surrounding what transpired behind the scenes of Wonder Woman 3, right up until the entertainment media complex finally got with the program and acknowledged that all that had really happened was that Patty Jenkins had dropped out due to what ultimately boils down to creative differences. That happens all the time in Hollywood, but Patty Jenkins saw fit to make it personal, burning all bridges with Warner to the ground. That evidently wasn't enough though, because as we shall see, what she did next might just have ended her career. In this editorial, I will begin with briefly recapping how she left Wonder Woman 3, before going through how she made matters so much worse by making a public statement, and why that statement will make her positively radioactive. We know what happened courtesy of The Wrap, which wrote, "Last week, Jenkins turned in her treatment for Wonder Woman 3 to the studio, according to the insiders. Warner Film Group co-chairpersons and CEOs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy didn't think the treatment worked and decided to not move forward with the film in its current iteration. Gunn and Safran, who had nothing to do with the decision, also agreed with DeLuca and Abdy that the treatment didn't work. DeLuca and Abdy asked Jenkins if she would consider pitching something else for the IP in another direction. This actually happens quite frequently in Hollywood, especially on major tentpole pictures that the studio invests hundreds of millions of dollars into. Any director of such movies need to remember that they are not there to make an auteur art house flick in accordance with their fancy, but to execute the delivery of the movie the studio wants to make. Jenkins forgot this, and if anything, the studio were being generous for being willing to give her another shot at coming up with a workable take. Oh, and in case you wonder, her big idea for part 3 was to bring Steve Trevor back, again, this time putting him in the Lazarus Pit. There is something noteworthy about that. In an era where Marvel's few remaining male-driven movies are all bait and switches for the actual female leads, Patty Jenkins went against the grain and wanted to make her Wonder Woman trilogy a Steve Trevor trilogy. But the studio weren't having it, and Patty Jenkins wasn't having the studio not having it. According to one insider, Jenkins refused and let DeLuca and Abdy know that they were wrong, that they didn't understand her, didn't understand the character, didn't understand character arcs, and didn't understand what Jenkins was trying to do. In other words, Patty Jenkins had a meltdown and went full Karen. To underscore her point, Jenkins sent an email to DeLuca that ended with a link to the Wikipedia definition of character arc. She stood firm to her vision and responded that if they didn't want to do her treatment, she wasn't going to do a different one and would instead just move on to her next film. In our initial report on this, I stated that when you take a broader view, this reframes the many other movies that Patty Jenkins were involved with, but which either imploded or she walked out of, like Thor: The Dark World, Cleopatra, and Star Wars: Rogue Squadron. The behavior Patty Jenkins repeatedly displays is that of a toxic individual, one who refuses to take notes, because she is always right. Which, incidentally, is a defining feature of a number of cluster B personality disorders, such as narcissism, although I'm not conclusively saying that she has that. But for people like that, it is not enough to always be right, they must also always have the last word. No doubt perturbed by this very rap piece, which would have raised eyebrows in the worst possible ways in Hollywood, Patty Jenkins saw fit to release a statement on Twitter, and this statement might have cut her entire career short. We're about to see how and what she said, but before that, and on the topic of cutting, Kamikoto makes Japanese steel kitchen knives using traditional techniques from Japan. Kamikoto builds on the legacy of over 800 years of Japanese metallurgy expertise in creating the steel to make the knives, which in turn have been meticulously handcrafted using traditional techniques that date back to Japan's Edo period. Having tried them, I can confirm that these kitchen knives are perfect for the purpose they have been designed for, such as cutting fruits and vegetables, filleting salmon, or cutting meat. Each knife is individually inspected and comes with a lifetime guarantee. Showcasing the traditional Japanese legacy, each knife also comes in a sturdy and highly decorative heavy-duty ashwood box, which not only ensures that the knives are stored safely, but that they make for some awesome Christmas gifts. On that note, Kamikoto has an early Christmas sale going on right now, and since they are sponsoring this video, we of course have an even better deal for you. If you visit our landing page kamikoto.com/edge50, which you'll also find in the description, and then use our code EDGE50 when ordering, you'll get an additional $50 off any purchase, including on top of any other special offer. So head on over to kamikoto.com/edge50, type in our code EDGE50 upon checkout, and order your Japanese steel kitchen knives now. With that, let's get back to Patty Jenkins. In a Twitter statement, Jenkins said, "I'm not one to talk about private career matters, but I will not allow inaccuracies to continue. Here are the facts. I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process when it became clear it couldn't happen soon enough, and I did not want to delay Wonder Woman 3 any further. When I did, Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to Rogue Squadron after Wonder Woman 3, which I was honored to do, so I agreed. They made a new deal with me. In fact, I am still on it, and that project has been in active development ever since. I don't know if it will happen or not." Here I'd like to interject that we have already heard that Rogue Squadron was a mess. That would be why development took so long, and Lucasfilm has removed it from the release calendar. Jenkins may say here that she doesn't know if it will happen or not, but privately, I'm pretty sure she knows it's dead. Jenkins continued, "When there started being backlash about Wonder Woman 3 not happening, the attractive clickbait false story that it was me that killed it or walked away started to spread. Actually, by all accounts, that was the real story. The false clickbait story was that the Gunn administration cancelled the movie outright, but nice attempt at gaslighting there." She continues, "This is simply not true. I never walked away. I was open to considering anything asked of me." Here it should be noted that all of the trades that report on this, such as Deadline Hollywood, assert that according to their sources, it was indeed Jenkins who walked away. "It was my understanding. There was nothing I could do to move anything forward at this time. DC is obviously buried in changes they're having to make, so I understand these decisions are difficult right now. I do not want what has been a beautiful journey with Wonder Woman to land on a negative note. Bit too late for that now, because Wonder Woman 84 already happened." Her statement goes on, but there's nothing of any importance there. What was said already is enough to destroy her career. Much like Meghan Markle might have thought that Netflix series would redeem her in the eyes of the public, Patty Jenkins may have thought this would redeem her in the eyes of the industry and show everyone what a victim she is, but also how stunning and brave. But what she actually did was signal to all of Hollywood that if any of you think about hiring Patty Jenkins, and there is even the slightest disagreement, and you've all seen that wherever she goes, production trouble follows, she could very well put out a public statement that throws her next employer under the bus. And to be clear, no one believes that she isn't the guilty party here, to the extent that there is one. James Gunn replied to her, "I can attest that all of Peter and my interactions with you were only pleasant and professional," implying that she is neither. That is the issue here. The article in the Wrap would have harmed her reputation, but this statement of hers confirmed what everyone surely suspected. Patty Jenkins is a toxic individual, and worse than that, she is not courteous, not professional, and she does not have the box office acumen to compensate for either. That then spells the end for Patty Jenkins as a high-profile blockbuster director. It may even be difficult for her to return to TV after this. For a supposed industry professional, she simply isn't professional. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And before you go, remember to head on over to kamikoto.com/edge50. Type in our code EDGE50 upon checkout and order your authentic Japanese steel kitchen knives now.